Hello and welcome to my first video of Arrow Awareness Week. Yay.
So,
So during Arrow Awareness Week, I'm going to be having a couple of guests on talking about aromanticism, because obviously, as we know, I am not aromantic, so I can't speak to arrow issues, and I thought it'd be good to have some arrow voices on, and today we have the first of those voices. Would you like to introduce yourself?
sure. My name is Marshall John Blount. I am known as Gentle Giant Ace on Twitter, and my pronouns are he and him. And I'm 27, and I live in Erie, Pennsylvania, USA.
With introductions out of the way, let's go on with the questions. So first, when did you learn that you were aromantic, or have you always known?
I actually probably not too long after I came out as asexual.
Mm.
It's sort of something that's fluid to me.
Okay. And whenabouts did you figure out you were asexual?
Actually, when I came out, I actually came out to my sister-in-law, and I kind of explained to her about how I felt about people in terms of sexuality and romance, and she was like, "Oh, if Deja, if you're watching this, hey," she was like, "Here's a link to it was an organization that she knew down in Pittsburgh." So I looked it up, and I saw actually the word asexual, and I looked it up on Google, and literally it felt like it described me perfectly.
Yeah, nice. I feel like that's a lot of people's introduction to asexuality is through random Google searches.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, do you consider yourself more aromantic or asexual, or are they kind of the same thing for you?
That's definitely a great question. Probably more ace asexual than
Mm.
aromantic. Yeah, I think in that I'm more fluid in terms of my romantic attraction or lack thereof.
Yes, yeah. Um, no, I guess I wanted to ask because obviously with me, because my romantic and sexual attractions are different, because I identify as homoromantic, there's a very distinct like difference between the two. But I can understand where if you identified as arrow and ace, you might just use those together, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. I think that's when people kind of um, often I have to explain to people that they're not like the same. They're not the same thing. Like
Mm.
you can be asexual and not aromantic.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's a common misconception about asexual people, that like all of us are aromantic, and that's totally not true.
Yeah, and vice versa as well, that all aromantic
Mm.
people are asexual.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I guess the majority of people do their romantic and sexual orientations
Yeah.
are similar, but that's definitely not the case for everyone. Um, cool. Have you struggled with your aromanticism? Does society's constant bombardment of romance in the media affect your experience?
Oh, definitely, especially around Valentine's Day. Like that
Yes.
is a that is a thorn in the behind. Um, there's definitely a lot of pressure in society in terms of like romance and to the need to be romantic. Um, and it's when someone finds out that I'm aromantic, along with being asexual, it's kind of like, whew.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, wow, interesting. Like, the majority of the responses are actually quite cool.
Hmm.
Whereas they want to learn more. They want to learn more about it. Um, but we do have the people who are what's wrong with you or something. What
Yeah.
happened? Um, but the fact that there are people who are like me, it's completely normal.
Mm.
But we live in a society that says it's not, because romance is the forefront of a lot of things.
Yeah, obviously, I feel that pressure to be sexual from society, and I
Mm.
can't imagine having that, and then on top of that, having the romance everywhere. I mean, I'm not a particularly romantic person, but
Mm.
I can at least I can kind of relate to romance plots more so if they're gay, because most things are better if it's gay. What are the most common misconceptions or stereotypes that you come across about your aromanticism?
That we are cold, that we are like not loving people.
Mm.
Um, that like, how can you love someone without romance? It's kind of like you could definitely love someone without romance, without romance.
And it's very strange because people do that anyway, even when
Mm.
they maybe don't think about their friends and their family as
Oh yeah,
loving them, but they do love them.
yeah.
um, well, I'd hope they do. Otherwise, they're very
You,
sad people if they're only loving like their one partner and no one else. But yeah, it's strange that they
yeah.
don't
It's
recognize in themselves that they can feel love other than romantic love.
I think when you put like a name to it, um, I think that's why personally that's why I think labels are important, because it's like we went decades if not centuries without knowing um, who we are. But I think we put a name to it, and um, and basically, especially when it's a community, I think people will tend to be like, "What's that?" Like either out of curiosity or out of ignorance.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it's I think when you've got a word to it, you can like if someone said, "Oh, I don't want
Mhm.
sex" or something, there
Yeah.
can be tons of reasons why you wouldn't want sex. It could
Yes.
just be that you just had sex, or that
Hmm.
maybe there was actually something medically wrong with you, and it distressed you that you didn't want sex. But you could
Hmm.
also be asexual, which is very different from those things, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
similar analogous cases for aromanticism. So having that word to say no, this is my orientation, it's not
Mm.
anything else, is very useful.
Oh, definitely.
So pivoting a bit to some kind of intersectionality. I am not an expert in this area because, as we can tell, I am white.
Hmm.
And also, I grew up in a very white area in the countryside, um, which is very unfortunate. But I get the impression that um, black people in general are more sexualized or can be very
Hmm.
sexualized in the media and society.
Hmm.
So do you think that people are less accepting of your orientation because of that stereotype?
I have come across people who have said like very off-putting things in regards to um uh us being black in terms of sexuality, where whereas we do get a lot of like very fetishizing
Mm,
um experiences, especially if you like go out in on public places, such as bars,
mm,
um, and basically it's the like the misconception that of being hypersexual, um, too, and basically like the fact that people think that people see a black person that's asexual or and aromantic, um, it totally goes against what they stereotype black
mm.
people.
Yeah, and I think that's a similar. Obviously, it's a completely different side of it, but in terms of gender, men are seen by society as being more
Yeah.
outwardly sexual. So I think that's part of the reason why people find it more difficult to accept men who identify as asexual, and I guess you can extrapolate that to
Mhm.
race as well, based on those stereotypes.
Yeah.
So yes, pivoting back again because I didn't put these questions in a very good order.
Oh, you're doing an amazing job.
Have your friends and family been accepting of your aromanticism?
I say for the most part, yes. My mom, she gets very excited about like important dates around asexuality and aromantic, being aromantic, like she will go out and bake a cake,
Yeah.
literally before I know anything. So it's kind of like, wow, you're more excited than I am about it. And I think that's impossible. But yeah, for the most part, particularly my mom's side of the family, very open.
Mm. That's really nice. Yeah, I remember seeing on your Twitter that your mum had baked a cake. I can't remember. It was AIDS Awareness Week last year.
Yes,
Yeah.
last year.
I mean, the year's only just started, so it was only a couple of months ago. But
It
yeah.
felt like centuries.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's definitely I think because like half of the family it's more open and as opposed to the other that it's more southern and traditional
yeah.
family wise.
Yeah, I can see that. I have a friend who identifies as asexual, but comes from like a very like conservative religious background.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a point of contention in some cases.
Yeah, it's definitely it can be very stressful, especially around family events.
Mm.
Um, it's like, do I tell them or do I not? But it's kind of like if other people can be open with themselves, how come I can't be open with myself? And
Yeah, that's the thing that like straight people won't hesitate to like talk about their partners or sex or whatever.
yeah,
So we want to be a place where you can do the same and say, "Oh, I'm not interested in this kind of thing," and not get weird glances and be like, "Oh, you'll just find out later in life. You'll know better later." All those
yeah,
horrible things. That
it's kind of like it gets very. And I think that's another thing that can also tie in with the experience of being black and aromantic and asexual is that there's like a cultural expectation. There's like a cultural expectation to be married and have kids. Where as we're entering a new, well, we've been in a new decade since 2020. So
yeah,
I think people are just breaking away from like expectations of like families within communities.
yeah. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable not to have children if you don't want children. I don't want children, and also
Mm-hmm.
the world's overpopulated, so we could do with a bit fewer children. um,
Yeah,
but
it's. I
yeah.
mean, 8 billion people by the time we are in our 40s.
Oh, that's fun. Anyway, existential crises aside, if there's one thing that you'd want to tell the general public about aromanticism, what would it be?
That it's fine. That we're not broken. We're not cold. We are capable of loving people, and it's just not. It doesn't have to be the way society tells you how to love someone.
Mm. Yeah. I think especially the split attraction model will be very useful for even people outside the Eastern era communities, just to kind of digest the way that they themselves feel attraction. Because I'm sure that there are plenty of people whose romantic and sexual orientations don't match, and if they knew about the split attraction model, it would help them. But at
Most
the moment,
definitely.
it's only like within our community that exists.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very important. It's definitely very important. That's why I'm very in terms of like I am a board member of Asexual Outreach, and
mm,
we have a website that breaks down split model attractions. I mean,
yeah.
and it's very important that any resource that you have that has information about asexuality and romantic attraction, it's shared, especially
Yes. Yeah.
now with the access of internet.
Mm. Cool. And a similar question:
Mhm.
is there anything you'd want to tell people who are aromantic or who are questioning whether they are arospec about aromanticism, or just advice in general? I guess.
That it's your journey. Don't let anyone pressure you into finding a place on the spectrum. Um, it can be a very fluid journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be one one part of the spectrum. It could be
Yeah.
I mean anything.
Yeah, and I think it's important to stress as well that if you decide on a label, that doesn't mean that it's set in stone and you can't change it for the rest of your life. Like if you then decide like the next week, the next day that doesn't fit you anymore, then it's perfectly okay to change. You just use whatever feels best and comfortable for you at the time.
Oh, definitely.
Nice. That is the end of the questions, I believe. Apart from the question is, what is your favorite cake?
Oh God. Definitely birthday cake.
Definitely birthday cake. Is that just like a sponge, like a regular sponge cake?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually but like I don't think do y'all have buttercream icing in
Buttercream icing, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's a big deal. Where in the area I'm in, definitely it's definitely a good cake to have. It can't, I mean, it could be, to me, it's never boring.
Yeah, so it's just like, I guess like a sponge. Is it like 2 layers sponge, jam in the middle?
No.
No jam in the middle? Just like more buttercream icing?
Yeah, that's where it diverges a little bit. Like it depends what bakery you go to and demand. I think over here it just depends on personal preference, and like you can add jam to it, especially if you make it at home. But at the grocery store I go to, which is they don't do, I don't think they do jam at all.
Okay. Yeah, I like when I'm doing like I tend to do like a Victoria sponge cake, which is like, it's one very British.
That sounds good.
So, yeah, it's like jam and then buttercream icing, I think, in the middle, and yeah, in between the 2 layers. And I tend to put like a black currant or a blackberry jam, something like really tart and sour, because that contrasts the like sweetness really nicely.
I definitely have to try that because I actually did see a bottle of that at the we have a European section at the grocery store, and they do have like a lot of British imports. So I got to check that out.
Yeah, no, but yeah, those are the end of the questions. Thank you for coming on. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope that everyone watching has enjoyed having you on. I'm sure they will. You are a lovely person to talk to.
Oh, you too. Like it's definitely an honor because I've been watching your videos for over a year now, so I'm very.
I'd say things like that.
I mean, I can't. I said I love your videos.
Thank you. That's very nice. Now I'm all nervous. I'm probably turning red. But yes. I guess I'll do my regular outro. If you is there anything you'd like to plug before we go?
Just be unapologetically yourself. And thank you for having me on. And shout out to everyone that's watching this.
Nice. Cool. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos I nearly said Friday. It's just every Saturday. It was today. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos every Saturday. So if you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe. That is all I had to say. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you next time.